when we asked Rita if she would be, is it our sixth, Jessica?
It's our fifth.
Our fifth participant and volunteer leader of these weekly virtual leadership series through WLP. I knew she would be popular because she has not only a tremendous reputation, but quite the tribe. And it's because of the leadership lessons and the strength of character and the amazing legacy that she has wrought in our region over the past 40 years of her career as a banker, but also her career as a mentor and a friend and what I like to call a Jiminy Cricket, at least for me. I've been very blessed for many years to count Rita as all of those things, and I know I'm the better for it, and I'm so grateful that she's not only all of those things for me personally, but she's been a caring, committed partner with WLP, both as an individual and as a leader of a number of corporations throughout the years. And we're so grateful for all your contributions and your care for us and our mission. Many of you already know Rita, but for those that don't, and I'm going to try to make this brief, but it's going to be hard because it's a full page of amazingness.
Very short. Very short.
Yes. Okay. I'll make it tight. Rita is the president of Pilot Bank. She has managed 22 acquisitions with a smile, including the merger of Nations Bank and Barnett Bank. She was only the third woman ever elected chair of the Florida Bankers Association in 130 years, which in and of itself is exceptional. She serves our community in amazing ways, including as the upcoming chair of the Outback Bowl Board, past chair of the Board of Governors for the Center Club, the Board of Directors for the Florida School of Banking at the University of Florida. She is on the board of the Tampa Chamber and the Aquarium, and she will follow our amazing Linda Simmons as the 2021 chair of Go Red for Women for the American Heart Association. And she serves on the Dean's Advisory Board for the Tiedemann College of Business at USF St. Petersburg. And she works a lot. She's an amazing Wonder Woman, a great friend and mentor, and a tremendous teacher. And with that, I again thank Rita and all of you for joining us. And I give you Rita Lowman. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you so much, India. You know how much I love you, and I always love it when we can have some time together. Today, what's going to end up happening is that, wait just 1 second, we're going to get all this going.
Sorry, guys. Share screen. There we go. Share.
There we go.
There you go. Everybody see it?
Okay. So today it's a little bit different from what I normally talk about, because usually what I'm talking about is leadership. But, you know, keeping your team engaged is about leading. And so we're going to have a dialogue along those lines. And I have someone that's going to help me in just a moment that I'm going to introduce. But first of all, what I wanted to do is share with you a little bit about my background. I have had the pleasure of leading large teams and small teams. We've led remotely. We've also led in offices. So any way that you lead, these tips that we're going to talk about today will help you. However, because we're in this different kind of world right now, many people are leading remotely. And so I wanted to give you a few ideas along those lines as we move forward. First of all, let me share with you, MIT did a quality of life survey, and this is some of the statistics that they reported, which I thought was really interesting, so that it can help us get into what we're going to talk about. First of all, 90% reported their family and personal life improved by working remotely. And I think about, why is that? Well, some of our associates have shared with us that are working remotely, you know, I might work from 9 until 4, and then from 4 until 6, I'm going to help my children with their schoolwork and have dinner. And then I can work again from 6 until 8. So it gives them flexibility along those lines to be able to improve how they're able to communicate with their families and how they're able to really handle their personal life. They also said 85% stress was reduced. And a lot of times this is the same thing, is I'm not having to worry about, oh man, I've got to be home by a certain period of time because I have to pick my child up or I have an engagement. I'm there and I can do that, but continue working also before or after. And I loved this. I love that 80% said that the morale and engagement improved. And that is if you continue, and we're going to talk about communication. If you can communicate with everyone, then you're going to keep that engagement going, and people are going to know what's going on, and they're going to enjoy being able to be a part of it. One of the things that can happen when you disengage is that all of a sudden people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. So it's really important that you keep the engagement going and that you have the trust and respect. They felt more trusted and respected because they were able to see what their end results were going to be, and they didn't have someone necessarily looking over their shoulder all the time. But I love this one. 93% believed that there was better collaboration. Now we're going to talk about how do you do collaboration when you're working remotely, which will also again bring us back to what we're doing right now if we're working in an office. And I do both. I work remotely 1 or 2 days a week, and I work in my office usually about 3 days a week. And that really helps me also. But it's better perceived morale, engagement, trust, retention, and collaboration. Now, the biggest struggles from working at home or working remotely, I should say, is 22% of the people do not unplug. They feel it's hard to unplug. And I can understand that. We just recently went through the Paycheck Protection Program, which you've probably heard about, PPP. Our associates were truly working 12, 14, 16-hour days. And it was very hard to unplug because they knew if I get the next one done and I can get the next one done. And we actually had to share with them one weekend that there is no one working this weekend. And in doing that, I can make that happen because I turn off your laptop and you have no ability to get onto your laptop at work. And so we can make that happen. But 19% felt loneliness, and that's where you need to continue to communicate and collaborate because, again, you don't want that environment. And then the distractions from home and staying motivated were less along those lines. But loneliness and isolation, these are a couple of the top challenges that remote workers feel like they really face. And so you don't want that to happen, and we're going to talk about how we're going to be able to engage as we go forward. So today, I have a surprise. He happens to be a graduate of USF, and he also recently received his Juris Master's from Florida State University. He's our marketing director right here, and he's going to help me with this, Preston Scott. So come on over, Preston. Preston is...
Good evening.
He is so awesome, and I love having him with me. But we want to talk a little bit about meaningful ways that you can work from remotely and how that really looks and feels. And, one of the things that we've done here at the bank is we've been able to give fun things out to associates to let them know that we're grateful. And so tell me a little bit about one of the ideas that you came up with that I really love.
Yeah, so we did, everyone has to wear masks or should be wearing masks, in my opinion. So what we did was we reached out to one of our local businesses here in our Tampa Bay area, and it happens to be out of St. Petersburg, and we custom designed masks with our logo and a cute little airplane on it. And we had those printed and sent out to all of our associates with a little card thanking them for all that they're doing and asking them to stay safe. So that was one thing that we did.
Yeah, and we love that because it actually was mailed directly to their home. And so they each received a little gift from us. We also, during the PPP time, for all of our loan operations team, all of them received either a fruit or flower arrangement, just because we wanted them to know how much we appreciated them. And I thought that was really important. But then there's also challenges that we have. And so when you think about challenges, Preston, what have been some of the challenges that we've seen here at the bank?
Well, technology can be a challenge. That's one thing. So I'm sure everyone here is very comfortable with Zoom now. I, for one, was not really that familiar with it. However, I think we did a really great job as working as a team and gave a lot of practice for people to engage. And it's just been a real lifesaver for giving that face-to-face interaction that you're not getting as much right now. So that was really great. Another challenge, just scheduling, making sure, because obviously, as Rita mentioned, we have a lot of associates who are taking care of their families at this time. As you know, school is not really at school. So that has been a thing that we have been very lucky at Pilot Bank and fortunate enough to have leaders who are flexible with us. So they're allowing us to take care of our needs with our families as well and get right back on track with work. So that's been really great as well. Absolutely.
And, we talk about being anchored during this time, and, what does anchoring really mean to you? Well, the thing with me, it's what's going to keep me going day in and day out, and how am I going to be able to truly communicate and know that what I'm doing adds value. So you have to have some concepts along those lines, but you also have to support each other during that period of time. So one of the things that we've done on the support aspect is we have, as Preston said earlier, Zoom calls, and then we also have Zoom calls with clients. And we think that's really important too, because there's so many clients that don't necessarily want to meet, nor do we necessarily want to meet one-on-one, but we don't want to stop that. And the other thing that we do is we also do our one-on-ones with all of our associates. So every week we bring everyone together through Zoom to see, how are you doing? What's going well? What would you like to improve upon? And I believe that's been a real positive for us.
It's been great. And I think especially after the first few weeks when things were not really sure as what was going on, it was so comforting that very first meeting we had to see all of our teammates' faces and be able to engage. And if I may add as well, a suggestion that I had heard actually from Debbie Lindbergh, we love Debbie, was to start your meetings about 15 minutes early and turn on the Zoom 15 minutes early and allow us just to chat and have fun. It made meetings something to look forward to, and we've been continuing that effort as well.
We have. And one of the things we also do with our meetings is we always start out and ask for success stories. We think that's really important so that your team can share what have they done well and what do they want to share. So the most valuable gift that we can offer is giving our associates our full attention. So when you're talking to that associate via Zoom, via conference call, whatever it may be, make sure that you're listening. And I think that's really important. I was just on our board meeting today, and it's really interesting because, here you are sitting around a table with your board, and one of my board members may very well be on here, so I'm not sharing anything that she doesn't know. But you have to listen because each board member has a different perspective. It's the same with our associates. They each have a different perspective. So listen through and see what's really meaningful to them as you continue. Now, I like this because we're trying to focus on the outcome and not the activity. How many times have you heard in your career? Now, I've been in banking 44 years, so I've heard this quite a bit. Oh, so-and-so is here until 8 o'clock every night. That is not a positive to me. Because somebody comes in at 8 in the morning and is still there at 8 o'clock at night, that's great if it's something you need to do, but that is not being productive and that's not adding the true value. So 12-hour work days lead to burnout and inefficiency. So one of the things I always enjoy sharing with people is make sure that you cut your work day into chunks. This is what I'm going to accomplish in the morning, midday, and afternoon. And then keep yourself a list of what you did not get to do and put that into the next day. And talk to your associates about doing that also. Because again, a 12, 14-hour workday, unless it's something like we were doing with the PPP loans, is not healthy. And I always share that along those lines. As many of you know, and if you've read my book, you know that I believe that faith and family are your two primary goals, and that's what really brings your life. Work is very important. However, you need to work the right way. Work smarter, not harder. Constant communication. We've talked a little bit about this, but is there anything else that we've done that you think really has added value?
Well, we've done so many things. I think just allowing people to, again, the flexibility that I mentioned, the meetings that we have are short on Zoom. That's been really great. So it allows you to kind of get back to some things that you may have to take care of. And just trying to think of different fun activities along the way to keep each other engaged. I think one day we had game day for our essential associates who are working all of our associates are essential, but those that are in the offices, we tried to mix it up and have some fun activities for them to keep it, just the morale uplifted.
Oh, and you know what else we did? This was fun. So I have a cattle farm, and we had several new babies. And so we put their pictures out, and we allowed our associates to name the 2 new calves. And then we had my oldest son to actually select the name without knowing who had put it in, and they received gift cards for naming our 2 new calves. So that was kind of fun. We do try to do different things along those lines. So keeping your team engaged in fun activities also is really important. We also want to reinforce the results of our progress. So when we were doing the PPP loans, every morning we would send out to our market leaders and our commercial leaders as to how many we had produced that day and what it looked like. We also send results about the new accounts that came from this. And then the other piece of that is anytime that we were on whether it be a panel or whether we did a Zoom, we would put that out so that all of our associates could see it and understand where we were and what we were doing. So that was really important, along those lines, and celebrating the successes that we did.
Absolutely.
Great. Now, strengthen the trust. Trust is built on telling people the truth and not telling them what they want to hear. And so tell me your thoughts on trust and how it works with us.
I think it's really essential. Trust is it definitely encourages engagement and allows people to feel comfortable to use their voice, which Rita Lowman is very good at encouraging us to use our voice if we are having a challenge or a situation, and we all, I think, at Pilot Bank feel comfortable to present those opportunities with solutions. And, we do make changes and adjustments based on that. And that has really, I think, built a lot of trust for our associates here, for sure.
Yeah. No, and I agree. It's interesting because, again, there's been times that you learn the positives from managers that you work with, and you learn things that you would not necessarily want to take into your style of leadership from managers that you've worked with. The bottom line, though, are those core values and the mission statement that you have as not only yourself as an individual, but also as your company. In my entire life, I believe that honesty and integrity are the 2 strongest values as they relate to my personal core values. And we've taken those into all of the companies that we've worked with over the years. Because again, if you have the integrity and you have that trust in someone and the honesty, then you're going to be able to build a great relationship. And I'll give you an example of integrity. And I always like using this because I just think it's pretty hilarious. So we had a young lady years ago, and one of the things that we did at one of our banks, I was with that little bank called NCNB, Nations Bank, Bank of America, and we did a trip every year. And so to win the trip, you had to do so much on your incentive plans and sell so many products and all the things that we know are not the right behaviors in today's environment. However, she actually sold, a client came in and wanted a $100,000 CD. And she said, "Oh, Preston, if I can do this as 100 $1,000 CDs, I might be able to win the trip." Well, the person said, "Oh, I just love her so much. Yes, you go right ahead and do that." Well, when it came into me, of course, I called the client. She said, "Oh, yes, Susie Q told me that she just wanted that trip and I want her to go." So a few things happened there. First of all, the client agreed to it. Secondly, the associate shared with the client what she was doing. But third thing is, was that really the right thing to do? And absolutely, it was not the right thing to do. And the reason I tell that story is because you have to know inside the right thing to do, and you do. So if you do the right thing right the first time, then you're going to make a lot of people happy and your clients are going to come back. And one of the things your associates will too, if you're sharing with them the truth up front and being honest with them. There's times that we don't like to hear no, and there's times that we don't always like to hear the answer that someone's sharing. So one of the things that I may end up asking, and normally I always do, I'll share with them, tell me what you would do in this situation. And when they share what they would do, then we'll talk about it. Does that make sense? And I think even working remotely, it's important that you continue to ask for that feedback and what would they do in a situation when they come to you. So you're proactively communicating, and then all of a sudden there's unexpected change. Have we had any of that, and what does that look like? Just a little bit.
Just the, you know, we, for example, when we started with our lending team, you know, basically all of headquarters is working remotely currently still. And so we had to adapt very quickly and order extra equipment or take away all my training computers and give it to people so they can use them. It was just a really team effort to quickly get things in line so that people could still work and be there, be productive and successful. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other.
Well, there has
just
been.
going with the flow really is what we're trying to do, but still staying positive while we do it, because
we have
definitely some challenges.
Yeah, and so what's really interesting in any of our in the banking industry, and I've talked to many bankers and many of my friends, and you know, we didn't realize that everybody could work remotely. We thought you really needed to be in an office to do that back room. So it's been a great opportunity for bankers who've been in the field for as long as I have to say, you know what, there's a new way of doing this. And I know doing transitions, we've always looked at what's the best way. And one of the things that I've always tried to encourage, and I think this is important, is that you're not doing it A's way or B's way. You're doing it the Pilot Bank way, or whatever company you're with. You're bringing the good ideas together, and you're proactively communicating that, and you're sharing, and you're building that trust. And so quickly do that and bring in that culture. One of the first things that we did when we all came in together here is we wanted to make sure that our core values were in line with our beliefs. And so we sat around a table and said, what do we want that to look like? And how does it need to feel? And then a couple of times a year, we'll bring teams together and ask them, what are we doing right? How can we continue to improve? And that's another thing that you need to do as people are working remotely. Make sure that they know that you trust them and you want their opinion.
Absolutely.
Now, in your training, what are some of the things that you look for as far as success goes? What is success in training with you, since you're doing some training remotely?
Yeah, that's really been a great thing as well. Thank you for bringing that up, is because we're able to do the one-on-one calls and record the training, which has been great because that does save on some time, or someone might have to hop off and go on to another meeting. It's been really fantastic. But really, it's just about engaging them and taking time to, obviously we can present things here, but really it's been a learning process for me during this time to have time to hear some of the opportunities that we have that I wasn't aware of, that we can incorporate into training. So we really have, especially since marketing is changing right now. We're really focused on other initiatives at this point. I've been able to dedicate a lot of time to developing training materials and things like that will really help our associates as we go through this and come out of it and have that time to do things that we weren't really able to do before. And it's been a great opportunity for that. And I don't know, I just love the whole video thing. I think it's such a nice, refreshing thing to see people's faces that you haven't got to see in a long time. I mean, we're 55 days or whatever we're going on here. So,
yeah, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
It's so funny because we talk about that, my goodness gracious, wouldn't you just love to be able to sit around and hug all of those friends that you've not seen in a while, but to be able to see them this way, at least they know that you care and that you're still doing well. And I think that's really important as we go forward. And I want you to think about, we just mentioned core values. I would like for you to think about the fact that when you're talking to your associates and when you're doing the Zoom calls or when you're doing your video conferences or any of those types of things, ask them what's their favorite core value. And let them share with you, because during this period of time, sometimes we put those on the back burner. And I always love to hear what other people's favorite core value is. And sometimes they'll align to what we have at the bank, but sometimes it's a personal core value. And that really helps you as you continue to build that strength as you go forward.
Do you want to know what my core value is?
I would love it. Yes.
Community. I think that's been something that we really have time to reflect and engage. It's just been amazing to me to realize how great of a community we have here in Tampa Bay and also here at Pilot Bank.
No, I totally agree.
And I mean that sincerely.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's interesting because one of the things that we do enjoy doing is as being a part of the community and giving back to the community. And, you know, that's where you really learn about people and you learn their passions. And, you know, you might not be everything to everybody, but what you do it really well. And I think that's really a positive as you go forward. Now, we talk about during this period of time, professional development. What a great time to be able to build additional skill sets. And I believe you're building a skill set tomorrow.
I am.
Yes. So think about what could you do that would build your skill set. There may be classes that you could take online. There may be a book that you can read, and we're going to talk about 3 of my favorite books in just a few minutes. But invest in your people. Let them know that you truly want them to continue to grow. One of my associates that I believe may be on this line, I have asked her to get what's called her CRCM. It's for compliance. And that's a really big engagement that she's going to do. I have another associate that's finishing up at the Florida School of Banking, and I'm so excited over that. One that's getting ready to go in Leadership Tampa Bay. So invest in your people. And you know what? They're going to give back 150% if you believe in that investment. The other thing is that people do business with people that they know and that they trust, and you're not going to build a relationship overnight. But what's going to happen is you continue to talk and really get to know people, and they get to know you. They're going to want to do business with you, and they're going to want to enjoy being a part of whatever organization you're with. Now, one of the things that we had the pleasure of doing earlier last week is I am the chair of the Outback Bowl, and we do checks every year. And so the board members are able to select some of the organizations that they would like to do checks for. And, you know, it's a great way to be able to give back in this time. Because again, there's so many things that everybody does so well. I see one of my favorite organizations out there with Mindy Murphy on the out looking in, and you know, love what she does and everything that goes on with her organization. But there's so many like that people care and really want to do that. The other thing is the talent that you invest in is going to give back tenfold. And I'll take Preston as an example. So probably 9 years ago, this young man came in, and, you know, you see this talent, and we started looking at it and working with it and developing it. And so he moves from relationship banker, becomes a regional operations manager, becomes a training manager, and now he's the marketing director for a nice sized bank and has just done amazing. And I'll give you all another example. I always love to take credit for Bill Gaty. And Bill and I kid about this all the time. Bill was, he came in and interviewed with me right out of college. And his very first job was working as a teller on Longboat Key. And look at what Bill's doing now. He went into our management training program, and he's now the market president for Bank of America. And I love those types of success stories. So wrap your arms around your associates and help them grow. The one thing I always look at, and I've done this my entire 44 years of career, who's going to take my place? I want to have that person ready to always take my place. One of our associates that we did this program with USF St. Pete, where we would bring in 6 to 12 associates every 26 weeks, and they'd go through training in the morning with the professors, and then in the afternoon they would be assigned to an executive, and we would work with them. And one of those associates is now with us here and is a senior vice president and our SBA director. So you can find great talent through USF, through other schools, and really embrace that. I think about Ann Bauer. So many of you know Ann, and she's just a great young lady. She's been our intern for last summer over the holiday season, and we would give her a project, and oh my goodness gracious, she would just do it. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. Similar to, I know,
Ann is a WLP scholar.
Isn't that awesome?
Sorry, I'm going to mute myself.
No, that is just absolutely amazing. And I knew she was, but I just love that kind of energy and excitement. So bring someone up with you. When you're sitting around the table for professional development, and I'll give you another example. When I started on the board with Florida Bankers Association, not that women had not been on the board before, but at the time there was not one single woman on the board of 36 men. And so by the time I finished up my career as the chair of the Florida Bankers, I had 4 additional women on that board. And that's what I think is so important. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. Bring the people up that you know are going to add value. And that's going to be really important as you continue. I like this saying right here, in learning you will teach, and in teaching you will learn. And both of those are so important as you continue to move forward. So teamwork and collaboration, these are really good. And so share with me a little bit about engagement and connection.
Well, it's really essential to creating a great team. And it takes some time to develop a great team, as we all know. But the constant denominator there is making sure that talents within your team are being utilized. Well, recognizing them first and then utilizing them for all kinds of various tasks and projects that you have. And it's so great. I mean, I know I would not be where I was as of today if I hadn't taken on a project that was outside of my, job description per se. But I really flourished and was offered those opportunities. And I have so many memories and great lessons that I've learned through that. So really giving your team the opportunity to do things that are not per their job description, but really putting that faith in them, guiding them, obviously, but it instills a great confidence in them and they'll do wonderful things. It also allows you to get to know your team and understand how they, what their tics are and different things like that. But it just really helps develop the talent overall.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I love the fact, and again, I'm not going over all of these, but grow with purpose. Know what your purpose is and be happy. One of the things I've shared all of my years is that if you're not enjoying what you're doing 80% of the time, then most likely you're not in the right position. And that's okay. I always will share with my team that if this is not what makes you happy, then that's fine. You can move on, and I will have people that have left me and come back, have people that really did want another engagement or opportunity, and that's okay too. But you need to enjoy what you're doing and get up with that pride and excitement and want to go in. And so I always share that. I just want you to really have the enthusiasm. I have, and many of you have heard my favorite word, and I don't have it on here, but I'm going to share it anyway because I love that. My favorite word is cause, and we all have a cause to be the best that we can possibly be. And when you look at that, communicate, you look at your communication, you look at your collaboration, you look at all the different things about, what does cause mean to you? Well, the very last word or letter is E, and that's enthusiasm. So walk in with that enthusiasm and know that the IASM of enthusiasm is I am sold on myself. And let your associates know that you're sold on them, that they really do make a difference. So that's important. Now, this is a quote that I've used for years from Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn. It's important that we do involve our associates. We can sit here and we can tell them, oh, you need to do A, B, C, and D. However, if they don't understand how to do A, B, C, and D, and you just walk away, then that's not going to happen. So it's really great when we bring them all together. And this is one of the things that we do whenever we have the opportunity. So we'll bring a group together and we will have the market leaders actually facilitate different sessions. And that way they're taking a part in it and they're learning. And you can do this via Zoom also. I think about, there was a session that Bill Gady and I just did for the Tampa Chamber. And it was a learning session. And so we were able to help through the PPP process on that particular learning session. And we involved and had questions asked. And that was just a really dynamic session for us. So involve and they will learn. We all will. So what are the keys to success? We've talked about giving the tools that are needed. Now, I think this is really interesting, though. One of the things that I will say was a bit of a failure for us when we first started is we didn't realize that some of them were going to need 2 screens, that some of them were going to need just simple supplies to be able to work remotely. And so make sure that you talk through with your associates and say, what do you need? What can we do? And, there's a great idea of putting a little box together with things like staplers and pens and paper and all of that if you're having your team work remotely. And then help them create a professional work environment. We know that many people are going to need to use one of their bedrooms with a desk in it, or they're going to need to use their counter, but make that little area around them feel comfortable. Help them understand how that would look and feel. And then I love this part of it, maintaining a professional image. One of the things that I do when I work remotely is I still get up, I do my makeup, I put on my dress or, slacks and a blouse or whatever, because again, I want to feel like I am going to work, whether it be remotely or whether I'm going into the office. So I think that's really important. And then I like this a lot. And how have we been able to really, it says when conflict emerges, resolve it. And so, with that, we've been able to do some video conferences. And what else?
Sure, yeah, for sure. Video conferences mainly, obviously you pick up the phone, which is something that a lot of us don't like to do these days by just texting, but it's been so much more powerful to connect by voice or by video or both, to quickly handle things. And especially for those of us that are at home, I mean, we're not out and about, so you're kind of available consistently. So that's been a great thing to, kind of get things taken care of more quickly, I think, as well.
Well, I like what you said, though, because I was hoping you would go to that point. Don't text it. If there really is some kind of conflict or something that you're not understanding, pick up the phone and have that quick conversation or do that Zoom training session so that it'll work out along those lines. And one of the things I've enjoyed, and I will tell you, another friend of ours, Kelly Flannery, who is the CEO of the South Tampa Chamber, she's doing these virtual coffees, as is Jessica Ravelli. And I sat in on one. I haven't been able to do many, but I did sit in on one. And it was fun because you were just kind of talking to everybody and seeing how everyone was doing. So do that with your associates too. And then continue to acknowledge any successes, anniversaries, or birthdays. It's very important. Don't say something for a special occasion, because you know what? Every day is a special occasion. And when we come in and we're talking, the first thing that Preston and I will say, so what good is going on today? How are you doing? Because that's important as you continue. And I always do that with the teams around me. I've always tried to speak to everyone that's within, my area, my floor or whatever, just to let them know I'm here in case they need me. So make sure you know what those special occasions are and what somebody has done to succeed in something that's really cool. And I think that would be really important. I know one of the things that our banking centers do is they always do birthday cakes. And I love how they started doing these birthday cakes. They put these little tents over them so that, so it's all protected and everything. But anyway, it's all cute. Now, I love books. And most of you who know me know that I always share with you Never Eat Alone. And that is my very, very favorite book by Keith Ferrazzi, because, again, you don't eat alone. And the reason you don't eat alone is the fact that, we've got them all, don't we? Never Eat Alone is the first one. Keith shares with you that, for instance, if I want to meet someone and India may know that person, then I'll share with India, is there a way that we can end up having lunch with Preston, let's say? And then India will say, well, sure. So India is helping me to connect to someone that I don't know, and it really ends up creating some synergies there along those lines. One of the things that I enjoy doing, and several of you have been a part of that, but since 2002, we've been doing quarterly lunches, and we do them in here. We used to do them in Miami. We do them over in St. Pete, and I'll bring about 6 to 8 women together and let them just have an opportunity to meet each other. And these are people that don't necessarily, you may know 2 or 3 of the women, but most often you do not know all of the women in the room. And I love that. I even meet new people that I do not know. And the other thing we ask them to do is bring your favorite book at times, and we'll swap out those favorite books. The next one is very simplistic reading, raving fans. You can't be everything to everybody. So select what you do and do it extremely well. And that's what Raving Fans is all about. We actually we read these books, my teams do, but with Raving Fans, we actually acted it out. And it was really cute because when you see it, there's an angel in here, and one of the guys played the angel, and we loved that. And then my good friend, Michelle Norris, gave me this book, and I recently read it, and I love it. It's Dare to Lead, and it's pretty powerful along those lines, as far as practical thoughts and insightful ways to lead, but also daring ways to lead. And so those are three that I really do enjoy. And of course, there's so many others that many of our USF WLP members have written that you'll see on my bookcase here, and you'll see also on my bookcases at home. And I think that the more that we read and the more that we educate ourselves, the better that we end up being along those lines. I know I'm getting close to my end of time, but let me just share, for those of you who don't know, the person that really should be doing this particular session is Debbie Lindbergh, because she just wrote the book, Remote Work Rockstar. And it actually came out today, and I wanted to make sure I gave Debbie a plug on it, because I was one of her review roadies, and I read the book ahead of time and gave her my thoughts on it, which is really good. It's another simplistic read, but gives you some great points as you go forward. And then I also wanted to share with you that education is the most powerful weapon that we can use to change the world. And I do believe that. And for those of you who have not had the opportunity to read my book, From the Farm to the Boardroom, it too is a very simple read, sharing about my life and the fact that I grew up and had to make some really tough choices when I was a young girl. And quickly, when I was 9 years old, I had to go in front of the judge and share where I wanted to live. My parents were divorced, and who did I want to live with? Well, for a 9-year-old, that was a pretty big decision. And what I shared with them, with Judge Land, is that I'd like to live with my mother during the week and my dad on the weekend. And Preston's heard this story 100 times, but what that gave me, it gave me a voice. It made me realize that I could actually use my voice for positive. And I've always tried to do that, and I've tried to give others the opportunity to use their voice for positivity. And if you do that, you're going to have a great team, whether they're working remotely or whether they're working side by side with you. Just make sure you're doing the best that you possibly can do, and that you're keeping that value of that team at the top of your list. And with that, I'll be more than glad to answer any questions. Preston would be more than happy to answer questions if there should be any out there.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
There are a few questions in the chat feature. India, did you want to say anything?
Well, I just wanted to thank Rita. Oh my God, I'm in San Francisco. Holy moly. Sorry. I don't know how that happened, but it did. In any case, Rita, thank you so very much. And Preston, you guys are amazing. And there are some phenomenal questions queued up. And Jessica's the queen of the moderation of that. But I just wanted to say thanks.
India, I've got to tell you this. My oldest son is right here on this. I love it. Hey, sweetheart. I love y'all.
Oh, that is so sweet.
Oh, that is so awesome.
So sweet. Yay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we thank you so much, and we appreciate you very much. And you just take care, and I'll let Jessica handle this from here on out. But thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. All righty. So we have a question from Diane Enger. Rita, how do you see this remote experience affecting the way work is done in banking long term?
Well, that's a really good question, because Diane, I have been on numerous calls with the ABA and the FBA, because what we're seeing is that some banks are taking, or first of all, their banks are saying, okay, we can work remotely. And so much of their staff that's in the loan and deposit operations teams are actually continuing to work remotely. And then we're seeing it take longer for people to actually open back up on the banking centers, because again, we have the same rules that all of you do as far as 50% occupancy and those types of things. So we were on a call yesterday, and most of the banks have elected to open up slowly over the next 30 to 90 days. And as many of you know, some of the larger banks have closed 30 to 40% of their banking centers during this period of time, and utilizing and redirecting their workforce. So I think on the back end of it, for all of the operational components, yes, it will be a little bit longer. And I do believe on the front end in your banking centers, you're going to see more appointments being made to be able to keep in with those restrictions. Thank you.
Great. Now, let's see. I do want to let people ask their own questions. Doreen, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Thank you. Actually, it's great to actually see you virtually, because I want to actually say that when this first started, I was actually just starting a course at USF, and I had some executives that I needed to have for the course, and thank you, Rita and Preston, for making sure that I had video from you. So I first want to say thank you for that. It's great to see you. My question it's actually Preston, it's about your training. I'm wondering about onboarding, because you have an amazing culture at the bank there, and how are you able to kind of get that across to the people at the bank while you're doing kind of a remote, or have you even had to do any onboarding?
Well, thank you for the compliment. Yeah, we have not hired any retail associates during this time frame. However, we are more prepared than ever regarding, like I said before, with our materials and training materials and things that we've been developing and adding to and enhancing. So I think that it will be still a positive experience, and definitely lots of one-on-ones, which everybody loves. And you know, and also, you know, getting our leadership engaged as well by welcoming people with videos, even if we can't see them in face-to-face. That's a really nice touch, to say welcome to the team from a video, you know, something really easy you can do from your phone. That's been something that we'll incorporate. And then, yeah, it's something that we are prepared for, and we will adjust and be flexible as we need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point. One of the things that we have done is not so much on the training side, but several of our associates have done short videos, and those are going to be out on our website and on our Facebook. So we're really excited about that. And we're just trying to do creative, fun things.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Awesome. And then I think the next question came from Gary. Would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Hello. Hi, Mom. Hi, Preston.
Hi.
I said in the chat, I love this conversation. Thank you so much. I was wondering, from your perspective, Mom, as a leader who's hiring people, what traits do you look for when you're doing an interview for new associates? And also, what is it? It's clear that you and Preston have like a great rapport and a wonderful relationship, but what is it that you saw in Preston when he first started that made you know he would be as successful as he has been?
Oh, I'm gonna blush.
Oh, wow. You know, well, first of all, I can't tell you how excited I am to see my son and son-in-law sitting there. It's just amazing. Thank you so much. But first of all, what I look for is, and I shared this last week, is I do look for heart. And when I say that, people have to have heart, and they also have to display that honesty and integrity. And again, I've been in the business long enough to know when you're coming in and you're giving me a bunch of, you know, junk, I can see that. I understand that. But when you come in and you really are dedicated, and you may not know anything about the industry. Now, Preston knew a little bit, but I will tell you, he incorporated and embraced it. And I see some, you know, other associates out here that have worked with me or currently working with me that they really want to learn. And that's what I look for. I look for someone who has a passion to be the best, a passion to help people. And, you know, again, if you're not leading by the heart and you're just leading by the head, then you are not going to be successful.
Thank you. And then I believe Stephanie Morge has a question.
Sorry, I was muted. So this question's for Rita. I know you had mentioned that you found your voice at a young age. What would be your recommendation or advice for those that maybe haven't and are still trying to find their voice?
You know, that's such a great question. We talked about this last week when my son and I had the opportunity to do something very similar to this with the Indo-US Chamber. And we talked about finding your voice and what does that look like? Well, the one thing that I've always shared is don't go around a table and be afraid to speak up. Now, you might not be heard that first time, but you can continue. And if you're not heard the first time, find a mentor or someone that you can bounce your ideas off of and help you and get that courage, because again, you need the courage. And I'll give you an example, and some of you have heard this before, but I was working for a chairman who, and again, I'm not telling you anything that's not in my book, okay? So, but this chairman in the boardroom would call me honey. Now, I realize that's an endearing term. However, it wasn't appropriate around the board. And so I had to find my voice. And this was the scariest time. Now, I've been in banking a long time, but this was probably one of the most difficult things for me. And I will tell you who shared with me to find my voice. And that was Judy Ginshaft. Judy said, Rita, you can't let that happen. And so I actually went into the office of the chairman of the board, who actually owned this bank outright. And I shared with him, you don't call the men Sonny, so I would appreciate you calling me Rita in a board meeting. And we had a really difficult time for a few months thereafter, because again, I spoke up. But you know what? Had I not shared that and spoke up, then I would have never really felt good about myself. And so it's not always something that's confrontational like that you're speaking up about. However, you do need to tell someone how you feel, or if you have an idea, make sure you go in and share that idea. And again, it might not be the first time, but I will tell you, our team they're always telling me things that and I see Laura Schaefer here, she's the world's best about saying, you need to do it this way. But the good thing is that they share with me how. I don't want to give you the answer. I want you to share with me what your thoughts are, and then together we'll come with that collaboration. But I suggest for you to find yourself someone that you feel comfortable in talking with, and it doesn't have to be someone within your own industry. And then talk about how you want your voice to come up. Some of the simple ways that you can do that is by being on a panel. You start, getting your voice heard a little bit that way. Then realizing what your true passion is, you'll get your voice heard that way. So there's many ways to go along that, Stephanie. That was a very good question.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Does anybody else have any questions? You don't have to put it in the chat. If you want to just unmute and ask, you're more than welcome to.
Well, Jessica, if not, let me just share with you my very last thought today is, and some of you have heard me say that, but always go forward. If Cinderella had gone back and gotten her slipper, then she would not be a princess today. So make sure that you move forward and do the best that you can possibly do, because it's so important and it's good for you. It's going to make you happy. And when I see the smile on Preston's face or the smile on my son and Gary and Brock's face, I can tell that they're happy with what they're doing. Of course, if I was sitting there at my farm on my porch, I'd be pretty happy right now too, which will be taking place tomorrow. But bottom line is, you need to love yourself. You need to believe in yourself, and you need to give your whole heart when you're doing something. Thank you all so much for letting us be here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I want to say on behalf of WLP and India, of course, feel free to chime in, but this has been just a delight to be able to put together. And this is our largest evening yet. So thank you all for choosing to spend some time with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.